Welcome to Training Tip Tuesday. Today we're going to work through the Novice Test, Novice Test B. I'm Courtney Cooper. My ultimate goal is that the riders and the horses that I work with leave the arena happy with their performance. And so to that end, I'm going to share some techniques and some tools with you to get a top score. We'd love to hear from you and get your thoughts about this week's edition. Know that you can always be in touch with us via email or voicemail or messaging on Facebook. And always tune in to Training Tip Tuesday, Tuesdays at noon. So the first thing that I would say is that it's always good to start the test off by sending your horse forward around the arena. Have them move, have them go back and forth in their gaits. Now we start with the first horse. This is a young horse that we had in Aiken. And you can see that while he's doing this test, he's a little long in his outline and he's a little inconsistent in the connection. What you'd like to do is maybe widen your hand a little bit and put your leg on and sort of send him up to your hand. This first movement where you cut right and then left across the arena, what the dressage judge is really looking for is a lovely bend both to the right and to the left. So you can see I sort of shaved both of those corners. And then now I'm on a circle and he's a little bit fussy, but like I said, he's a young horse. And so we're trying to do the best we can. If you've got a horse that's fussy like this, don't give up points by getting frustrated with yourself, right? You never know what the judge is seeing or not seeing. And so you'd like to keep riding for every point. Like I said, stretch tall, close your leg, widen your hands. Try to help the horse get from the inside leg to the outside rein. You can do that by thinking about leg yielding. When you come off that circle at E or B, and then you have your downward trot transition, you want to think about taking a little bit of half halt, really setting the horses back on their haunches and preparing. Because immediately you go into this stretchy circle. Again, you can see this horse is actually going well forward, which I love, but it's just a little inconsistent in the connection. I think this was his first novice test. Now he's turning left and he's going back right. And again, you'd like to see more bend both directions in the turns. And then we go back to our circle here. So when you're trying to get the horse to be more relaxed and more consistent, don't think by going slower you're going to make it look better. Generally, that is actually the worst thing that you can do. So send the horse forward, put him to your hand, try to move the bit. I'm a big fan in all of the tests. If you can post the trot 9 times out of 10 or 8 times out of 10, horses are much more relaxed in a rising trot than they are in a sitting trot, especially if you've got a young or green one or one that's being fussy. Now, the other thing you can do, because you can rise or you can sit, is that you can sort of mix it up a little bit. You can do a little bit of sitting trot, a little bit of rising trot, and try to settle the horse if that's a horse that finds that helpful. When you're moving them into the walk transition, you also want to think about going a little bit from the inside leg to the outside rein, so the horse continues to step through on the transition. You can see if you back up on this horse, when I asked for the walk transition, it was almost a trot, halt, then walk transition. It wasn't very smooth. If I had to do it over again, I would trot. I'd probably sit in the corner, ask him to shorten his stride a little bit, and then move him sideways. Again, I should have widened my hands a little bit at A so that he stayed centered and a little bit down in his connection. And then I did the funny little diagonal to G to the halt. But overall, not too unhappy with that horse's performance. This next horse is a horse that we had in for sale, and I found particularly challenging on the flat because he wanted to get short in his neck. So again, you can see that being a little bit fussy, and this horse is actually overbent. His head wants to be tucked underneath, and he wants to break not at his poll but further down his neck. And technically that's quite incorrect. So the idea is that you're always, again, pushing him to the hand and allowing the hand to push the nose forward. So if you've got a horse like that, you can see there that I'm sort of pushing my hand forward and encouraging the horse to take the bridle forward. One thing you can do in your training before you get in the ring is change to a softer bit. So ideally that the horse goes forward into the connection. So here you see I'm preparing to get on in the circle, and really think almost about leg yielding from your inside leg to your outside rein. So the horse pushes through its body and it gets onto that outside rein, so that as you come back on this long side, you can balance the horse up, you can put the horse back on its hock and get a good downwards transition. Again, here you're going back into the stretching circle. So as you get about 2 or 3 strides before C, you want to half halt, maybe slow the tempo ever so slightly, and then push your hand forward. So as you get to C, you're already starting to stretch. And as you come back around, you want to have your reins picked up completely by the time you get to C. It's real important so that you can have a balanced trot down your short side, and then you can show a nice bend to the left and a nice bend to the right. That horse actually didn't do that too badly, but again, he was overflexed the whole time. So as a judge, I would probably mark that down. So if you've got a horse like this that's in the arena and it's a little bit fussy and it's a little bit tight, again, try to just keep thinking about pushing your hand forward so that the horse takes the connection out and down. And that's something that you just have to do a lot in the ring, because the more experience you can get on a horse like this, the better you'll be in the arena. Generally, a horse like this needs to be in the arena a lot so it learns to take a breath and push through the connection. You can see the canter circle. He's starting to get tight and go up and down. Again, I would encourage you to go forward. When you're riding your test, the other thing you can think about is it's about the rhythm and the balance, and that each stride before and each stride after is similar, so that you're never showing a difference in the tempo or in the rhythm. So that's really what the judge wants to see. The judge wants to see that consistency in the horse's step and the horse's stride. So as you come back to walk, you want to make sure that you just shorten the stride. You don't shorten the horse's neck. And you can see actually that was quite a good trot transition. Widening the hands. And as you do this funny diagonal, you want to think about your outside stirrup or your left stirrup just touching X, because that way you won't overshoot the center line. And then as you get on the center line, you want to take your half halts. This next test is at the AECs last year. This is one of our young horses, Hunting Stars, and she was actually second with this test in the novice horse. You can see she comes down the center line. She's very bright and very forward. A lovely bend there to the left, pushing off the inside leg there, and a lovely turn there. So I like to ride very forward in my tests if I can keep the horse relaxed. I think the judges reward that. They like to see a horse that's forward and maintains its outline. You can see with her that she continues to push forward, and then I sit about 6 or 7 strides before I want the actual canter to part. And what that does is it creates the balance so that your horse knows how to push through, knows that you're going to be asking to do a transition. Here I'm starting to half halt and balance her back on her haunches so I get the transition down. But I still maintain the forward. Get a little slower right before the stretching circle, and then she stretches out. Make sure you keep your upper body back and tall so that the horse doesn't have your extra weight on their forehand. So now she's back and connected. Now I'm putting my left leg on, making this turn across the middle. Now my right leg goes on and pushes her to the left rein to make the next turn. So there's no disruption in the flow, that it keeps coming forward. One of the things that I like to do when I'm working outside in the warm-up is to do 5 strides of sitting trot, 5 strides of rising trot, so that the horse doesn't anticipate this next movement, the canter, right? So they keep the canter moving forward, or the trot moving forward into the canter depart without changing the shape at all. And then you can see she pushes forward. She has a lovely canter off your inside leg to your outside rein, so that inside hind leg keeps pushing. She balances back up onto her haunches, gets a nice trot transition. Ideally, you'd like to have that trot transition closer to the middle marker than to the end marker, so that you can ride a balanced turn through the H corner, so that you can get a really nice walk transition. Anytime you've got a transition like at C or at A, you really want to balance that corner before. So here you can see I'm picking up the walk, shortening the walk, making sure that it's really balanced. Again, coming from my inside leg to my outside rein, widening the hands a little bit so that as I pick up the trot, she keeps her frame. Left leg, and now I'm looking at G. I know where the center line is, and I'm coming down, and I'm going to halt right at G and rebalance by doing lots of little half halts as I turn onto the center line. So in conclusion, it's a lot about getting the bend of the horse and keeping the consistency in the rhythm, the bend, and the shape and outline of the horse. The more you can do that, the better your scores are going to be and the happier you're going to be at the end of the day. We look forward to hearing back from you guys on what you thought of this presentation. And like I said, tune in next week, Training Tip Tuesday at noon. Thanks so much for tuning in, and stay well.